All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's been a while since I've been sitting here talking to you guys. We took a break last month, but we are back today. Super excited for our topic today. If you can't tell what we're talking about, we are going to debunk the 5 biggest hotel social media myths today. Super excited to have you all here. If it's your first webinar or you've been following along through the series, welcome. This is the third part to our 2026 social success series. So super excited to have you all here. We will have part 4 later in the year. So if you haven't watched the first 2, make sure you go back and do that. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we jump into the 5 myths today. Feel free to take notes, take screenshots, but you will receive this recording after the event concludes, so you're able to go back and watch it as many times as you want. Also, if you're halfway through this presentation or you get to the end and you think, I know a person that would really benefit from this or they need to hear this, feel free to send them that same registration link. They can register and watch it on demand as well. So super easy to pass that along to your teammates. But without further ado, one more announcement before we get into our topics. Like I mentioned, this is part 3 of our social success series. So if you attend all 4 parts of our series, you will receive your Hotel Social Media Champion badge from Travel Media Group, basically just showing that, you've taken the steps and you understand social media from a hospitality perspective. You are a Hotel Social Media Champion. And at the end of the year, if you've attended all 4, I've sent you your badge. If you post that badge on LinkedIn, you'll be entered in for a chance to win our content creation basket. So super awesome, especially because we're always talking about capturing content on site, right? This will give you a tripod, some microphones, a light for your phone, everything you need to create really good content from your phone on your property. So again, if you're thinking of anybody that this would be really good for them, or maybe you just want more chances for your property to win this content creation basket, send this to them. If you need the previous ones, there is a link on the console where you can look at all the previous social success series we've done this year, and then keep an eye out for part 4 coming later this year. And again, you can watch this on demand. So if you have some teammates that might be busy, the good thing is I can go back and track who has watched it no matter when they did. So don't feel like you have to attend these events live. They're always available on demand just as long as you register. So, all right, we've got all of our housekeeping out of the way. Let's jump into our topic for the day. So, I want to talk a little bit about how the rules of hotel social media have changed. We all know this. Social media is not the same that it was 2-3 years ago. Really, it's not the same that it even was last year, because we constantly see platforms with new updates, new algorithms, new features, new apps that are coming out. It's always changing, right? And it can be hard to stay up to date with this. So I want to go through and kind of talk about how, the way travelers discover hotels has changed over time. We know that social platforms have evolved from just that marketing brand awareness channel to search engines, trip planners, trust builders. We're even kind of getting into that aspect of social media being a booking platform. We've seen those integrations with Booking.com and Expedia through Instagram and TikTok, and it's just going to continue to grow from there, right? OTAs are finding their way into social media, figuring out ways that they can capture those bookings, because they know social media is the first step of that traveler's journey. And then we have to talk about the biggest topic in hospitality this year, which is AI. That is extremely important in how travelers are discovering hotels, because they are able to find answers about your property in one single search. Tell me about hotel blank. I'm going on a girls' trip and I want a hotel that does this. It's super niche and it's super specific to what people are looking for. And if your platforms and your website and your reviews and review responses don't add up, which we'll talk about in the future in this webinar, AI is not going to be able to pick that up, right? So we're going to get into AI a little bit further into this presentation. But with all of these changes, it's pretty evident and clear to see a lot of hotel marketing strategies that are based on some of those outdated assumptions, right? It's coming up with a social media strategy is a full-time job. And if it's not your priority or your number one responsibility, it can fall to the back burner. And especially if you're not staying up to date with these algorithm changes or new social media platform features, your old strategy may not be working anymore for what you need it to do. So I want to talk about how we're going to separate fact from fiction. So I want you to think maybe you believe some of these things you've heard. Maybe you just believe it because that's what you've always been told. Or maybe you're believing it because somebody that was running your social media told you that and you just trusted their expertise, right? So how many of these have you heard? TikTok is only for Gen Z. That is like the number one thing that I hear all the time about TikTok. That's for young people. They're just doing dances. They're just doing trends. While that was what TikTok was maybe during COVID, because we had nothing better to do other than to do a TikTok dance, it has changed, right? It's a video first platform. It's very visually active. People mindlessly scroll through TikTok. The engagement is insane on TikTok. People love to like, they love to comment. Now you can repost things on TikTok. But as we'll see in a couple of slides, TikTok is not just for Gen Z. We need more followers. If you're a social media manager sitting on this call, or maybe you're working with someone like Travel Media Group and you're like, followers are our number one thing we want to have. We want more followers. We want more followers. I hate to break it to you, but that is one of the least important metrics within your social media. And we will talk about that as well. Our content isn't professional enough. And I want to, tiptoe a little bit on this because there is a line, of course, of your social media strategy and the content you're putting out that we want that authentic feel, but we don't want to get too lackadaisical either with our content. We can't be too lazy with it. We want it to look good, but we also don't want to be too polished and seem like we're perfect, because no hotel is perfect. No hotel stay is perfect, right? So kind of a fine line of authenticity, but also staying true to the brand, staying true to your brand story or your hotel story. And then social media doesn't impact bookings. That is one of the biggest myths, especially as we continue to gradually see that integration with OTAs and how AI search is changing that. Social media plays a big part in people's booking decisions. And then lastly, one person can handle it all. Yeah, I've got one social media manager. They've got it all. Probably not, right? And we'll talk about that as well, about how much a social media manager really does or what they should be doing, right? Maybe you do have a social media manager, and after this, you'll realize, hey, you're not doing like 3 out of these 6 things that you should be doing. So those are our 5 myths for today. So we're going to go through each of these one by one, break them down. I'm going to debunk each one of them, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of why this stuff is not true anymore, or maybe it was just made up, right? We had a stat from the beginning and we just ran through it and nobody has changed, that information out there. So number 1, social media is just for young people. I put this graph in here that is super exciting to see because honestly, it's educational for myself as well, seeing how this has changed over time and seeing some of the older generations get onto platforms that are for younger people, or younger people being on platforms that are for older people, right? So we know that each generation is going to use social media differently. They've got different apps. They have different engagement on each of these platforms. They're using it for different things. But it's really interesting to see when we talk about Facebook, how we think, yeah, my mom is on Facebook. My grandparents are on Facebook. I don't use it so much. That's what people assume of Gen Z, right? But we see this stat of, 77% of these people that were surveyed of Gen Z still use Facebook. They used it within the last 3 months. I love Facebook. I go on it. I check it. It's how I stay up to date with people that I have been friends with since I was 10 years old when I first got on Facebook, right? But on the flip side of that, we're seeing Instagram too. Although that the baby boomers are 39%, we're seeing 60% of Gen X using Instagram within the last 3 months. And of course, millennials and Gen Z are in front there. But across the board, YouTube, pretty even. TikTok, we see a little bit more of a generation gap. But you can't neglect a generation because of the assumption that that's for young people, right? Because I guarantee there are millennials, there are Gen X, there are baby boomers on TikTok, even if you don't think there are. We see the stats here. Maybe it is a little bit lower for Gen X, but there is still that 46%. And maybe your hotel is exactly what they're looking for. So you have to understand who your demographic is, what their niches are, and find ways that you can fit into each of these platforms. So just a couple of things about each platform individually. Facebook still reaches every generation. We saw that in the last image. Of course, it's a little bit higher for Gen X and baby boomers and millennials. Instagram has turned into a trip planning tool. TikTok has become a search engine. You know, I go back to that and we're going to talk about that being a myth as well. But TikTok being a search engine, Instagram being a search engine, these are visually appealing platforms that people can get a good idea of what your property has to offer just by looking at it, right? They don't have to read anything. They don't really have to go through reviews. I can see right off the bat if that's a property I could see myself at or not. And then Pinterest. This is a platform that a lot of people don't talk about too much because I feel like 2015, 2016, it was really big, right? We were all creating boards. We were having travel inspiration or food ideas, but it's kind of coming back to as a travel inspiration because we've talked about this at Travel Media Group. You know, we're going back to the trend of 2016. It's 10 years later. We want to go back to that nostalgia of 2016. And I've honestly been using Pinterest a lot recently, creating boards again, especially for travel. I'm going to Curacao in October. I've already been saving a bunch of things that I need to buy, places I want to see while I'm there. So we're definitely seeing Pinterest come back a little bit. And then LinkedIn. We often think about LinkedIn as a business-only platform to network with people, but there's a lot of things that you can do on LinkedIn for, you know, someone wants to hold their meeting or their conference for their management group at your hotel, finding that hotel business. But also, it's a great place to have your overall branding too from a different perspective that Instagram and TikTok may not do. It's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more professional. Maybe you're targeting those leisure travelers, those business travelers for, you know, the workspace you have, the printers, the computers, things you have to offer for people that are traveling on business. So that may not always be something you talk about as much on Instagram and TikTok, but for LinkedIn, that's the kind of stuff that I'd want to see. You know, I have a trip coming up here. I saw this hotel come across my feed of the awesome workspaces they have there. Let me look more into this property. So I want this with these little information bits is to show that each of these platforms usually serve a different purpose, but every generation is using it in a different way. So you can't discount platforms and you can't discount what people are using, right? So don't choose your platforms based on the stereotype that you think, you know, hey, we're a hotel in Miami. We're not sure if we're going to get a bunch of business from LinkedIn. Look into that more. Maybe try it out and see if you get anything from it. But choose that based on where your guests are spending time. So maybe you do run a trial test from, you know, this date to this date. We're going to post on etc. platforms, see how that performs and adjust your strategy around that. Okay, number 2, and this is probably one of the biggest myths that I talk to a lot of hoteliers about, is followers, right? We have this myth, and honestly, I can't say it's always been a myth because from the beginning of Instagram, it was an important metric, right? How many followers you had. So higher followers equals higher success. Wrong. I want you to listen to me when I say this. Followers do not matter. It is a vanity metric. It looks great. Hey, we've got 10,000 followers. It looks like a lot of people love our property. But when you go through your posts, you've got 5 likes on each post. Why that looks crazy is because we went through a spell back around 2012 when people started buying followers on Instagram, right? Because they wanted people to seem like they were popular or they had a lot of followers, meaning a lot of people enjoyed their content. It was more trustworthy the more followers you had. But we know that the algorithm has changed. Think about your Instagram usage alone. When you scroll through your home page, how many of those posts are from people or pages you actually follow? I know for me, probably 60% of the content I see on my feed is from what the algorithm thinks I want to see, right? I'm not even following them, but they pop into my feed because my algorithm, based on my searches, based on my activity, thinks I want to see that. Same thing with TikTok. You get on TikTok and what is the first thing that pops up? Your For You page. That's rarely people you follow, right? It's trending videos. It's things your algorithm thinks you want to see. You have to go to a completely separate tab on TikTok to see the videos of the people you're following. So I'm going to explain this a little bit more and why that this is a vanity metric and doesn't matter. Engagement and guest action matter more. So I have an example here of a hotel, right? One of these pages has over 10,000 followers. The other one has around 850, I think is what I put. Then we have the same exact post, right? The one with 10,000 followers got very few likes, but the one with 800 followers got a ton more of engagement, right? We're seeing those likes be way higher. That is more important because when you talk about engagement rate, it's how many likes, comments, shares, engagements overall that you've gotten based on your followers, right? So 3% of our followers likes this post. Why this is important is because, again, that metric of people that follow your page and people that don't follow your page but still see your content are pretty similar. I might see your content and never follow your hotel. I may save the post for later. I may send it to my best friend for an upcoming trip, but I may never follow your page. But if I'm still engaging with that post, your engagement rate goes up. So I want you to keep this in mind when you're worried about your followers. Most of the people that are seeing your content don't follow your page and may never follow your page. Of course, having followers is great because that's, people that really like your property or they want to stay engaged with you, or maybe they have an upcoming trip in a couple of months, so they want to get excited. They want to see everything you're posting about, but don't harp too much on that because it looks great. It may look really cool. You may look super popular, but if your engagement is not showing up, that means your content's not resonating. And simply having a big number of followers is not doing anything for you. That means we got to try something else. So let's track some metrics that actually display success. So our reach, excuse me, is how many people are seeing. Again, some of the people that will see your content will never follow your page. But if we see we're getting a high number of reach, that means our content is still getting pushed through the algorithm into people's feeds. Super important. Saves. This means that our content resonated enough or had some great information. People want to remember that for later. Again, I've got a trip coming up in a couple of months. I want to come back to this. I'm not ready to book yet, but I want to remember this post. Link in bio clicks. This one is a little bit more, it's harder to track and harder to see what the end goal was there because maybe, again, I'm just in that inspiration phase, but it's still important to see what kind of clicks you're getting in your bio. So whether that goes to your hotel's website or a link tree with your other social media, still keep an eye on that because you can optimize your link to send people where exactly you want them to go, especially maybe you're running a promotion, a summer deal, and you put that booking link right in your bio. You can talk about that in the caption and then see how that worked out for you. DMs, people are messaging you about questions or they want to learn more information, or I saw this posted about an event. Can you tell me about this? Are you going to have this? Is your hotel ADA? All of these things, make sure that you're keeping track of your DMs because I know for a lot of people, they may not want to go to the front desk. They may not want to pick up the phone and call. So keeping track of your DMs is super important. And then shares, like I mentioned earlier, maybe I share something with my best friend for our upcoming trip. That means your content is resonating so much that people want to share it with somebody else. Profile visits, again, you may not get that follower, but if they see a post in their feed, they come to look at your page, that's a win because they probably scrolled on your profile for a little bit and got the more information that they needed. And then I want to come back to the bookings, but comments, everybody loves to get comments, add a question into your caption, add a poll into your caption and get those people to engage with your content so that it continues to push through the algorithm. And then booking. This is difficult, right? Because we know we can't put links on Instagram or TikTok in the caption, and that is in beta testing and possibly might change in the near future. But maybe you're running a social media ad for bookings. You have that summer promotion going on. You ran an ad. You were able to, have it linkable. So you're able to track that on there. But engagement from those future guests is going to beat vanity metrics all the time. Vanity metrics look good from the outside, but that doesn't mean that your content is resonating with potential guests or even current guests. Myth number 3, content has to be professional and polished. No, I can promise you people do not want to see your empty hotel room bed and that's it with the simple caption of come stay with us. That is so boring, right? We want to get on social media to be entertained. We want to turn our brain off. We want to watch videos. We want to see content. But when we have that travel idea in mind, like, hey, I'm looking to book somewhere here, I want to see what that property is all about, right? And we know that authentic content is going to build that trust and it always performs better. I promise. So what should we do, right? If we don't want to post our picture perfect photos that we use on our website, on social media, what can we do instead? If you have a team member that has a great personality, put them on the camera. Let them take videos. Let them take photos of them in action. Of course, get their permission before you post on social media. But I promise you, some people at your property have awesome stories or they've been there for several years. They have things to share. That's what makes your property special. Of course, The property is what usually gets people in the door, but your staff and the experience is what gets them to come back and tell their friends and family about it. Make sure you're replying to comments and DMs like a human. We have enough AI chatbots out there. You probably have one on your website. Have your social media be authentic with a real human behind that. Show humor when appropriate. Participate in trends that fit your brand. Don't do a TikTok dance trend if your demographic is golfers who are looking for somewhere to stay to play golf. It may not resonate with them. Understanding your niche, your demographic, and finding the trends that fit for you. Just because you have a video go viral doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to get a bunch of bookings, right? So it's not always appropriate to jump on a trend just because it's trending. So really understand which ones will work for your property. Again, celebrate your employees. Maybe you have an employee of the month, or this person did this. Acknowledge them. They're what makes your property special. And the more you acknowledge your employees and promote them on your social media, they're going to want to work harder. They're going to want to have a great experience for the guests because they want those guests to leave a review about them. And it's a constant cycle. And then admit mistakes if something goes wrong. We see a lot of hush-hush, people avoiding things on Instagram, or, they're getting called out by so-and-so and they don't say anything. Sometimes you have to face it head on. Hey, we know we had a leak or the smoke alarm went off. Post on your story an apology, things you're doing to fix it. Sometimes just facing it head on is better than ignoring it. And of course, I say that with caution. You can't do that with every single issue, but some of the minor things, make sure that you're talking about that. If your pool has to shut down for a couple of hours for cleaning, these are things that you can post on your stories just so that you're upfront with your guests and that potential guests can see, okay, they're really adamant about making sure people know what's going on. And then how do we do this? Just some examples. You've got a phone. I guarantee someone on your property has one of these. Have them go around, take photos, take videos, get people's approval to post. Have employee do a POV. Maybe you have a really good bartender. You have a really good housekeeper. Hey, come along with me as I make this drink, or come along with me as I clean this room. Do a time lapse. You can do some behind the scenes. So those same examples, maybe some morning coffee on the patio. Everybody loves that kind of photo. Housekeeping transformations, like I just mentioned, a chef plating the food, or front desk welcome moments. Get your staff involved. The more people see your staff online, the more comfortable they're going to feel when they arrive on property because they feel like they already kind of know them. So I wanted to put these two examples and just look at these two and tell me which one is a little bit more intriguing than the other, right? The one on the right, and I'm going to tell you why. One, there's a person in it. Two, we can tell that was probably shot on an iPhone because it looks very authentic. They were probably out there taking selfies on the bridge. And three, the caption is much better, right? The one on the left, we're seeing, click on the link in the bio to book. The one on the right is about the experience, right? It grabs your attention. It's more visually appealing. I could see myself standing on that bridge. Yeah, that bed looks great, but that's it. I'm going to see that photo of the bed and I'm not even going to read the caption. I'm just going to keep on scrolling. But if I see this photo of a girl on a bridge at this resort, I'm going to stop and look at it and maybe read the caption and maybe check out the profile. But I want to say, you're not all resorts, right? It doesn't have to be some picture perfect moment like this. The sun is going down. We're on the bridge. The sky is blue. But this person being in the image, showing their experience, is what makes it special. And every property can do that. Every property has a sunset at some point. Go outside and take a photo of it. Take a photo of your morning coffee on the patio, things like that. All right, myth number 4. Social content doesn't affect AI search. This is a huge topic at every conference I've been to this year, at every conference that's coming up when I look at the agenda. AI is one of the topics, right? We're not going to escape it. It's not going anywhere. So you need to know that your social media is impacting. And one thing that our president, Dana, said in one of her posts recently is talking about how AI is not writing a story for your hotel, right? You write the story that AI then gives to travelers. I'm going to say that again. You are writing your hotel story. The things you put on your website, the things you post about on social media, the review responses you're putting out, that is you telling AI, this is what we're about. This is our story. This is what you need to know. AI is not just making things up about your property, right? We know that AI is pulling that information from every different online resource that it has access to give someone a well-rounded answer. So I did an example, asked AI to tell me about this hotel, based on their social media, right? So it says based on their digital footprint, here's what stands out. Goes on to list all of these things, tells me the vibe of the property, tells me, hey, we've noticed they talk about this. Here's some recent posts they did. Now I've got a pretty good idea without even having to see the hotel social media, what the vibe is, and even maybe what it looks like too. So do this for your hotel. Go on AI or ChatGPT or any other AI search tool that you use. Hey, based on our social media, tell me about this hotel. Tell me what the stay would be like at this hotel. You can do the same for your reviews, your website, etc. Or just ask ChatGPT straight up. Tell me about this hotel and just see what it tells you. Because most of the time, actually 100% of the time, the answer it's going to give you, you can go back and source where that is from. Might take a lot of work, but you can definitely do that. All right. We know that social media provides fresh public content that helps AI understand your property. We just saw that in the previous example. Your photos, videos, captions, and guest engagement reinforce that brand story. Again, you're writing your brand story, not AI. And then consistent posting gives AI more signals about your amenities, location, experiences, and audience. Make sure you're keeping it up to date, right? If something happens at your property, you're going through a renovation, post about that so that AI can see that. Put that in your review responses so AI can see that. You have to keep it consistent so that it's giving a search result that's more present, right? If you haven't posted in 6 months, it's going to say they haven't posted it about in 6 months, but this is what it was like before. So make sure you're keeping that up to date. And then social media works alongside your website, your reviews, review responses to strengthen your AI visibility. And you're probably thinking, wow, Cassidy, that's a lot. I don't have time to ask AI about my hotel. I've got a tool for you. We recently launched the AI Signal Report here at Travel Media Group. Awesome tool. You can fill out your information with your hotel, and it's going to give you a report back that breaks down the top 6 questions about your property that people are asking AI. And it's going to give them answers that it would on any other AI search tool, right? But it's going to show you where those came from. So if I asked, what's the cleanliness like at Hotel Vista? It's going to give me a score. It's going to give me the little breakdown of information, and then it's going to show me where that came from. Did that come from our social media? Did that come from our website? Was that in our reviews? Was it in a response I posted to a review? So if you're interested in this AI Signal Report, I'm going to have my information at the end of this presentation. So either email me or message me on LinkedIn. I will send you the link to this, and you can do it for your hotels. I do want to preface this is for hotel owners and operators, but it's a really awesome tool so that you can go ahead and get a baseline of what AI is saying about your hotel and restructure your social media strategy if you need to. Or, hey, maybe we need to hire somebody to help us with social media, or we need to hire somebody to help us with review response so that this stays up to date. So again, if you're interested in that, send me an email or message me on LinkedIn. I will get you that link. All right, our 5th and final myth. What does a social media manager do? We got 6 things that a social media manager should be doing technically, right? They build our brand strategy. They run the organic social media. They run the paid social media. They create the content. They track and analyze that campaign's performance. And then they got to stay ahead with social trends and tools. That is a lot, right? Personally, I don't think I could do all 6 of these things by myself. I've seen a lot of management groups that have a social media team. That's usually a good way to go. A lot of management groups and hotels hire somebody like Travel Media Group, where we have a whole team of social content creators and a CSR team who's keeping track of that performance for you. And we're handling all of this, right? We're posting your organic social. We're creating that content. We're boosting some of that stuff for you. We're helping you build that brand strategy, and you're able to come in and make adjustments. Hey, we've got these 6 events coming up. Can you please create content around that? And then you just give it up. And then you can see the content when it's made, make some notes, and then we'll update you on how that content is performing. But this is a lot for one person to do, right? When we think about a social media manager, and we've seen that role grow over time, even just from a marketing perspective, you have a marketing position and you assume they can do social media management too. Totally different, right? Your marketing person may not have specialty in social media. You have to have a very specific social media role if you want all of these things done by a person, right? But I think it's really, really hard for one person to do all 6 of these things with no help. Great hotel social requires that collaboration. And that's why us at Travel Media Group, we do what we do, right? We love to help hotels. We have an entire team dedicated solely to social media, dedicated solely to responding to your reviews and your surveys. This is why we're here, because you have a hotel to run and operate and guests to deal with. This doesn't have to be at the priority of your mind, right? You can trust that someone like Travel Media Group is going to take care of that for you. But everyone can create a moment, but marketing simply captures them, right? That is what we do at Travel Media Group. So before I drop in my contact information, I want to put a poll here.